Hey everybody, welcome to the Fire It Up with CJ show. Today we're going to be talking about this Hawaiian Rebirth, and we have Yves Nager here, who's the author of this book, and we're going to be talking about the three parts in this book. So welcome, Yves.
Thank you so much, CJ, for having me today.
I guess I should say aloha. I should
Yes,
say
let's
aloha.
aloha to start.
Aloha.
Aloha from Kauai to you and everyone watching us.
All right, so I want to find out a little bit about the book. What intrigued me, I'm not sure exactly what's happening, but I keep on, for the last couple of times, I keep on focusing on the theme of loss. And universe has brought me people who have lost loved ones. In fact, next week I'm also talking to someone who lost their dad. Lost their dad. I lost my dad. A guest 2 weeks ago lost their mom. So for some reason, I'm in a theme. I don't plan these things knowing what the stories are beforehand. They just kind of coalesce. So it seems that the two of us actually, three of us have had our parents and their death kind of move us into a spiritual journey. So I wanted to talk to you about how you came up with this work and how it was related to both the passing of your father and grandfather.
Mm. Yeah, this was really the starting point on really start embark on this journey. However, this was 2005. This is
Hmm.
where I lost first my father passing away after he had cancer for almost 6 years. 4 months later, my grandmother, and 3 months later, my grandfather. So there were three very close people, just one after another, just passed
Mm-hmm.
away. And so this, I would say, this was really the initial moment where
Mm-hmm.
things changed drastically in my life through these losses. However, I had experiences as I reflected on this, I had experiences in a way of almost losing my own life, so-called like maybe some would refer to near-death experiences, even before that.
Oh, you did? Okay, so what was
I
your
did.
near-death experience before
So I ha
2005?
so this was mostly during like my kind of early childhood, and as a teenager, I had a lot of surgeries at
Mm.
that time, and with the full anesthesia, I had experiences where I was like leaving my body, and you hear this story. You see yourself out from outside while I perform the surgery.
Wait, oh wow.
So things like this, and I never talked about this to anyone. This was just way too off charts. But I had this connection of like being between the planes,
Huh.
and then the name of the book is Hawaiian Rebirth. But I think I had a couple of like rebirthing experiences before, and
Hmm.
what I remembered, it was in a way in the space between, and
Hmm.
it kind of felt weird, but beautiful, in a way, beautiful as well, to be out of this suffering physical body. However, what was always super intense was like this crash.
You
So
mean after you came back into your
af-
body, so you're
this
floating
is
into a different plane. And how old were you again when this happened?
uh,
Age?
this this was between the age of 4 and 12. I had a couple of surgeries for a variety of reasons.
Oh, and you've had near-death experiences not just once, several.
Oh, several.
Wow.
So, and
Wow.
that I think this was like, so I had like very profound spiritual experiences, and I just became, I was not like the rest, the rest of my classmates or of my friends. I used to be, in a way, always very different, and I was kind of struggling. I always tried to fit in,
Hmm.
but no matter what I tried, or with, we have certain interests or passions, and this is this, no matter if I went for running or no matter if it was about music. Also, I found people, they liked doing the same sports or they liked listening to the same music. Uh, I, yeah, we shared the same passion, so to speak, but I never felt like really deeply connected for a long time, and that has
Hmm.
just a challenge. And I had this out of the body experiences, and I just didn't know how to grasp that
Hmm.
at this age. This is really early, and most of all, I had no one to talk to about.
Yeah, so
So it
then,
was
well, so
it's
that's
tough.
interesting. I wonder if I feel like now I want to do a survey of every spiritual person I've ever talked to because I feel like oftentimes, like my own life experience, I didn't have a near-death experience, but I always felt like I had friends, but I was always kind of like, I don't really belong here. There's this always this sense of being, maybe even others would perceive me within the circle, but I always felt like there's something a little bit different about me than the rest of the folks. And I wonder if that's true of any spiritual person because there's some aspect of you that knows that there's this plane of reality and some other plane of reality that's happening simultaneously, especially yourself, since you had several near death experiences. So then you had your father, grandfather, grandmother die. All within what's a period of time did they pass? You said a couple of months, right?
Uh, it was father was in February 2005, and then grandmother was in July, and grandfather was in October.
Mm. And
And
was
there
wow.
was one more person I didn't mention yet. My brother, he was he started to respond in his way from the situation, and he had pretty intense surgery himself at that time.
Oh my gosh.
So and it was in a way critical. So everyone is passing, and I know I became really worried. Now I'm gonna lose my brother as well.
Oh my goodness.
So what's
Wow.
what just what's going on? But my brother is well, and
Right,
happily
good.
happily and alive. But at that time, just the passing, the loss of one family member, from grieving, it takes us at least a year, at least initial stage of grieving, up to 2 years until we are kind of not back to normal, but we can function more in a
Hmm.
in a harmonious way with ourselves and the world again. But if you're losing three in such a short time, just life turns out very differently, and
Yeah.
so it has been really it was a very 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 challenging time.
Yeah. And if you look back, what made you ponder these big questions? I mean, in the first part of your book, you talk about 7 questions, and I'm going to read them out to the audience so they know what they are. So, what continually attracts your attention? What do you do with love and joy? What matters to your heart? What fields would you like to know more about? When do you feel inspired and creative? Question 5, when others compliment you, what do they say? Question 6, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? And question 7, what would you like to do in your next life? How did these questions come about? And how do you
I,
think they're related to the death of your loved ones?
uh, I think the question which comes at the end, that's in a way probably the most
Hmm.
relevant. So what would you do
Do in your next life?
in your next life? And because this was at that time, it was so very challenging because I just didn't know what can I do with this life. This is just such a struggle. It has been such a struggle with the surgeries, this weird experiences, and now everyone is like passing again, and so I don't know what to do with this life, but I kind of started to ask at that time, okay, if I get a second chance, in a way, I had this rebirth, as I knew you get several chances in life to be in a way reborn. I
Hmm.
experienced it, but then really, okay, if I would have in another life, if I would come back, what kind of life experience would I choose
Mm.
for another time? So it started from there. But if you start right from there, which is kind of the last question, I cannot just ponder this question. I need, in a way, when I
Right.
work with someone or in a book, that you need to kind of prepare to come to this question. So it starts a little bit more in a practical way, which
Yeah.
I think question one, what is continually attracting your attention? Where is
Mm.
your focus going to, and how that relates to life purpose? So that is how it came into play. But the seventh question, I was pondering on this question a lot because
Mm.
there was way too much suffering
Yeah.
right then.
Yeah. So it's interesting because you thought of it as like even though your father had passed, it was almost like how does one lead life? And it's funny because the same exact thing happened to me. So when my dad died, I was like on a corporate track, and I was like, very ambitious and working very hard, and I've also had a similar kind of experience where I've had 1 month uncle died, my favorite uncle died, and then my aunt died, literally a month later, and it was the anniversary of my dad's death and an anniversary of my cousin's death. And then this winter, the same thing happened where well, not the same thing, but my uncle died right around the same, my second uncle of the same family died. And then my aunt, one of my favorite aunts, was diagnosed with lung cancer. So it's all within this fall period. And it makes you wonder, like, what the heck? Like, why, why is all of this stuff happening at one time? But I know that when my dad died, I started wondering, well, what is the purpose of life? Like, what I don't understand. What are we supposed to do here? Why am I here? What are you supposed to be doing here? Why did his death happen in such a mysterious way? Because it did. So those were the things. So I wonder if, and the other person that I talked to, whose parent lost his mom, had a similar kind of experience. Like he went into just actually massive depression, and then he has slowly but surely wrote himself out of like through writing, came to his answer. So how did you come to your answers yourself? Like these questions, how did you come up with these specific 7 questions?
So it came over time. I mean, the seventh question, this is a question I was pondering myself, but I didn't find an answer. And basically what I tried, because I just tried everything I could to, in a way, escape mechanism. So
Mm-hmm.
throughout the week, workaholic on the weekend, and trying to escape, an alcoholic, so to speak. So I
Mm-hmm.
just did everything to numb, suppress my pain, and just try my best to somehow uh, follow up, continue with my career.
Mm-hmm.
And that went more or less. I mean, it doesn't really work, but I could at least numb myself and try to escape reality. It was an escape mechanism that's way too painful, and that went well, or not well, but I could do it until the end of 2007.
Mm-hmm.
And then this was a Christmas Eve, Christ. There I was by myself, because what happened, we spent Christmas Eve together as a family, but after everyone passed, the situation was we were not getting together anymore and celebrating Christmas Eve.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone of the remaining family members kind of dealing with it in his or own way. And so there was this Christmas Eve 2007, and I was by myself. And then I walked. This was a turning moment. So I walked through the streets of the town I was living, and it was like in a movie. Really, it felt like a movie set. And you're walking through the streets, you see through the windows, family reunion, happy or singing, and you're walking through the streets by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And then I kept walking. I was very sad, and I said, "Gosh, this is too much." And at this point, I was really thinking about to end my life.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, everyone passed, and okay,
Wow.
I have a choice. I'm gonna go by myself. I was pondering on that option that night, but then I just kept walking, and then I ended up in front of a church.
Mm-hmm.
And and I've been living in that town for about 5 years, and I've never noticed this church before. Attention, I was just not, numbing myself or trying to keep myself busy. I never went to this area of the town, so I'm in front of this church, and I just knew I have to go in. And there was no one else in the church, but probably there was a service before, something felt holy in that church. So I went in there were candles which were lit, and I went there and I lit a candle. And usually when I went to a church, I was lighting candles for some friends or family members or
Mm-hmm.
past. But I'm here, I'm lighting a candle for myself. And then I was falling on my knees and I prayed to God, please help me.
Oh.
So that was the turning point. So after trying to escape for such a long time, okay, I surrendered. I prayed, lighting my candle, please help me, please guide me, show me what's the purpose of life, what I'm here to do, what I'm supposed to do with this life. And so that was the turning point, Christmas Eve 2007, and then it went very quick. And less than 3 months later, I found myself here in Hawaii for the first time.
And how did you hear that voice go to Hawaii? How did that come into your life?
No, the message was delivered through my mother that I should go to Hawaii. So when I tell the story, everyone, oh, okay, now he heard the voice of God or
Yeah.
the voice of Christ. It was Christmas. No, it was my mother. But before that, so the new year came, the new year of 2008, and I had 3 people who were showing up in my life. Someone at my workplace. And then because I had severe back pain, so I found out my health insurance is paying massage. So I started to see a massage therapist, and I went to see, this was a very cute older lady, an astrologer. And these 3 people, this was within a week, all these 3
Wait, an
people.
astrologer, a massage person, and your mom?
No, a coworker. A coworker.
Okay.
I did human resources at that time. Someone who started to work in the human resources department, a massage therapist, and a cute old astrologer lady.
Okay.
But I didn't say yet Hawaii, but in very, very similar words. This was really like, oh wow, there is some truth to it. I'd say all told me, Yves, you have to leave from Switzerland. You have to go somewhere else for a while. You have to get out of this. You're not gonna make it. You have to change. You really have to change your life, and you have to go somewhere else. Go travel. Go to another country. Get out of the situation you're in.
So you were in Switzerland. What part of Switzerland were you in at that point? You grew up
I grew up near Bern, the capital of Switzerland. But I was living at that time near Zurich.
Okay, got it. And so you got the message from 3 different sources. Get out of here. And you had heard your mom saying, come to Hawaii, and that's how it happened?
No, and so I knew, okay, I have to go. And then it was on the birthday of my mother, I went to her, and I knew, and I started to look into options. Where could I go? And my closest option, I wanted to go to Australia. That was my plan. Because one of my best friends, it was a very dear friend, close friend, he just moved to Australia. So if I would have gone there, there's a little bit of you go to the unknown, but you have some safety. At least one person. And so I talked to my mother and listened, and then she was, and I was afraid to ask her, because I felt also responsible to take care of my mother, who lost her husband, who lost her parents. I always felt responsible for her too, but it was really time to take care of myself. I lit my own candle. I was a little bit afraid, how will she respond? But she was so happy, and the wise mother she is, if she would have told me I should go travel, I would have said no. But now as I came and listen, I have to travel. I have to go away for these reasons, and absolutely I'm supporting you, but I'm only supporting you under one condition, so to speak, and I don't want you to go to Australia. I want you to go to Hawaii.
Yeah, so this is what your mother said. I'll support you financially to go on a trip, but it has to be to Hawaii, not Australia. Okay.
Yes.
So you said, okay, I'll go. I mean, did you know anything about Hawaii at that point?
No, I never planned to come here. Really no. And then I actually asked my mother, why Hawaii? And then, don't you remember 10 years ago, your brother, this was in 97, my brother was in Hawaii for a month, and my parents my father and mother, this was right before he got diagnosed, half a year later. They were here in Hawaii too for 1 month. And back at that time, they told me, you should go to Hawaii. You would love this place. I think it would be a good thing for you. My life was just very different. And I didn't plan to leave my safety box or my comfort box. But she said, the time is here now, and I want you to go to Hawaii. So, oh, okay, I'm going to go to Hawaii. And if it doesn't work out, I said, okay, I have a condition. If it doesn't work out with Hawaii, then I move on and try it out in Australia. But I go to Hawaii and see how this experience will be. So
Wow.
my mother was the messenger of sending me to Hawaii.
Wow. Isn't that great? And what do you think have you ever asked her, what did she see, aside from being there and saying you would like it, why did she think you'd like it, or why did she think it was important for you to go there on your journey?
No, I never asked her, but I think probably, I think it was very intuitive. She's
Mm,
my she she's my mother. She knows me
mm,
very
mm,
well,
mm,
and I think
mm.
she said probably she had some sort of a higher knowing or a sense that this would be the right place to go.
Yeah. Okay. So you went and you have these 12 steps of that. Tell me a little bit about these 12 steps because I see that these are kind of related to even how you chose to go to Hawaii. So tell me a little bit about how you talk about these 12 steps towards getting to almost your inner truth. I don't know how you describe I'm not sure exactly what these 12 steps are, but it seems like these are possibly 12 steps from Alan Cohen.
Hmm.
So tell me a little bit about follow your blessing and what these 12 steps are and why these 12 steps in your book and how you have lived your life this way since it seems like your journey to Hawaii was kind of the very beginning part. Or do you see your
Right.
journey to Hawaii as being related to these 12 steps?
Um, yes, because as soon as I came to Alan Cohen, he lives here in Hawaii as well on another island.
Hmm.
And so when I came here to Hawaii, then I started to study English at the school, and I tried my best, not just study what we at school. So I lived with a local family, and I started to read books in English, which was pretty challenging. And then one of the first books I came over with during that time was one of the books from Alan Cohen.
Mm.
So that's how I found out about his work, but I didn't know about these 12 steps in particular. I This is much later, I think 2012 or 2013, where I kind of started to think about, uh, maybe one day I'm going to write a book. And around that time, it was someone else, Paolo Coelho, who wrote in a blog and referred to these 12 steps from Alan Cohen. And so
Mm.
this was in a way a reminder. And then I took this 12 steps, I looked into it, and it was not a book, it was more like, I think it was a blog post and pretty short and concise. And then I took it as a base, as a structure to start writing and look deeper into all of the steps.
Yeah, and
So
so
this
I'm
is how
gonna
it.
I'll read some of these steps just because so
Yes,
people know
please.
what they are. So the 12 steps are to be truthful, start slowly and start now, slow down and stop, discover and develop your talents, discern, then choose, let your passions guide you, follow your intuition, stay open, receptive, and flexible, learn how and when to rest, notice life's gifts. Number 11, read signs, see synchronicities. And 12, be courageous and take risks. So I see all these things operating, right? You heard that you had the synchronicity of three people, separate people telling you that you needed to leave. And it's pretty courageous to move from Switzerland from, born in Switzerland all the way to Hawaii. I can't think of two places that would be more polar opposite in my mind.
It's
Honestly.
12 hours of time difference. It's
Yeah.
it's it's a trip all around the world. It is.
But culturally, it seems so
So
completely different. And then just geographically, everything seems to be completely different. Or is that your sense of it?
yes, no, everything is it's very different.
Yeah. So, so tell me a little bit about these 12 steps and how you guide your clients when they're in life to follow these 12 steps. When do you ask them to follow these 12 steps and how do you guide people through them?
So I think the two most important ones. I mean, all the steps are very important, but I think in essence the two most important ones are the last one was be courageous and take risks.
Mhm.
So this is about taking action,
Mhm.
and the one before is the one about
Yeah,
synchronicities, right?
read signs and see
So
synchronicities and
it's,
notice life's gifts. So notice life's gifts, give me a sense of what that means.
uh, I think uh, a really good way to talk about is just of an experience of
Mhm.
yesterday afternoon. So we had someone from Colorado who worked with me and my partner Anjong in the past in Colorado while we still lived there. She came to Hawaii 2 days ago, and she was yesterday. She was celebrating her birthday here on the island.
Oh,
So
nice.
she wanted to have something special, and knowing about this place here on Kauai, and so she decided to spend the whole afternoon with us. So and so we decided we have a plan where you want to go, and I most of all really like to work with people outside.
Mm.
And where does that come from? I had some burnout experiences. I had to see therapists and doctors, but when you're in these hospitals or in this cold settings, I never really felt this is something which I feel like open up. I'm more contracted,
Mm,
so
yeah.
it's hard to do process work or to get inspired. So what we did, we met, we had lunch together, and then we left. We were driving to one particular area, pretty sacred, in nature, remote. And the plan was to drive there, and then we were driving there. I went there maybe 50 times. And then yesterday we got there, and then on the road, the gate was closed.
Oh.
So, which means we have to park the car much earlier than it was planned, and we had to walk. We had to walk much more. However, for that journey, and here I talk about the synchronicities of play for her journey, what she needed on that day, there were so many things she discovered herself along the way, which were giving her answers to the intentions she brought to working with us, uh, and, and, and also answers to the questions she was pondering for herself. And this was all found along along the way. And so to to take this example, uh, by working with people, this is really about opening up to these synchronicities,
Right.
to read the signs, to see the signs, and but not just to do it talking about or doing on a mental level or doing emotionally. There are a lot of techniques and ways to work with people. The very, very best way is to actually go walk with someone in
Mm.
walk with someone in walk with someone in nature.
Yeah,
And
that
then
the exact same thing happened to me yesterday because I am doing a series of classes for small businesses and coaching, and I have a very certain way of coaching, and I also have a really strong business background, like 20 plus years doing business consulting. And even though I could go back, what was the people what they really wanted in this class, one of the things that they really want is business consulting. And so I found myself coaching this person and offering a lot of business consulting because that's really what she wanted. And I think a lot of small businesses need that. And I said to my husband, I'm like, I know there's something wrong. Like, I can't, even though I can do this, I just can't do it. So I need to talk to you. But we were walking around the lake. I said, I just need to talk to you. And literally after like 5 minutes. I said, this is just not my mission. Yes, I can do this. I'm very competent in doing this, but it's off mission. It's off point. I'm not supposed to be doing this. I have a unique way of coaching people, and that's what I'm supposed to bring. But it was because we were out in nature and my husband is so, supportive and loving that he provided, the foundation of just listening. And it just, boom, like something that I've been waking up at 4 in the morning 2 nights ago, thinking about that night. It wasn't until we walked around the lake and it happened, 5 minutes right into the walk. So, which is, I think it's about like, I think it's also what I would say in your 12-step process. It was also about slowing down and stopping and discerning and then choosing. Because it was kind of in my head. I'm like, something's wrong. I can't figure out what's wrong, but I can't do this and I don't know why, and there's a huge resistance. And just stopping, slowing down, being truthful and saying, this is just, I can do it, but it's not what I'm supposed to be doing. It's not congruent with my inner nature and what I'm supposed to be doing. And then discerning and choosing. I mean, I can definitely say that in that moment and being outside, we're all kind of pieces of that.
And
So,
one, and sorry for interrupting you. Want to go ahead? Okay. No, and as you talk about this walking in nature. So yes, we are here in Hawaii. So of course you can walk bare feet on the sand. So what happens, and that's a what happens by walking, and I try to walk bare feet no matter where I'm at, even when it's a little bit colder. By walking bare feet, then you connect with something bigger than you. You connect, so the elements of the earth, the water, the fire, the wind. It was incredible, this interplay of these natural elements. It was fantastic. And by walking bare feet, what happens? You become very present because you need to look. It's, yes, there are some sandy areas, and then on Kauai that can be a little bit more rocky. There are some areas where you take the slipper zone,
right.
flip flops to walk. So you really become very, very present. And so it was both for me and Donshun, who were working with her, and for her, we were really like guided by spirit, and it was a very, very it was a very magical experience. And I think by working with someone, I think I also write it in the book. I don't see myself just I'm just a teacher the whole time. I think through every person I work with, every person I work with is also a teacher for me. So it's through being a teacher and the student at the same time, we all learn and grow together. Yesterday, it was absolutely beautiful and fantastic. And so, of course, by working here in Hawaii, if you can do it in person, out in nature, that's the very best way.
So you talk about in your book that when someone feels stuck, the first step is finding their gifts, and then we talked about noticing life's gifts. So tell me a little bit about and I've talked to a lot of clients, and it's like, well, what are my gifts? And it's hard. It's one of those things that it's hard to see yourself, because oftentimes what I've noticed is clients take for granted their gifts. Like, oh, everyone can do that. I'm like, oh, no, not everyone can do what you do. And you diminish your gifts when you talk about that. So tell me how you step people through in finding their gifts.
So I think it was one of the 7 questions is, what are others complimenting you, right?
When others compliment you, what do they say?
Right. And sometimes we are so lost in our internal process, in our story, that we are not really noticing that the feedback we are constantly getting from others. So it's listening to this, and so that's in terms of the question that we start to open up. But as a practical step, it's also about fine-tuning the perception about how do you perceive yourself in life, and how do actually others perceive you. So I would say in terms of the question, that's a way more passive form. So you pay attention to what others do, but you can do it more proactively. And this is what I have in the book. It's
Mm-hmm.
a questionnaire. You fill it out for yourself, how you think
Mm-hmm.
you are in certain areas, more or less.
Mm-hmm.
And then you fill it out for yourself, and then you give the same questionnaire to four other people in your life who tell you how they see you.
Right.
And that's a really great way to start. Where are similarities and where are some uh, differences?
Yeah, and I'm just trying to find it in your book. I don't know if I can find it fast enough, but I have. I
Part
think that
four.
part four. Yeah, I've had. Here it is. Okay, got it. So there's a checklist that you're referring to. So here's what it looks like in the book, but it's their characteristics like adaptable, ambitious, appreciative, arrogant, assertive, attentive, authentic. So that's like one that people always tell for me: authentic, balanced, calm, caring, charismatic, communicative, compassionate. I get that a lot. Confident. I get that a lot. Conscientious, content, cooperative, courageous. I get that. Creative. I get that. Um, Critical, decent, detail oriented. Determined. I get that. Diplomatic. So these are, and there's actually one, two, three, four. There's one, two, three, 4 pages worth of these qualities. And what I find, and I actually have a very similar, it's one that's called dependable strengths. So it's a very similar kind of exercise where I fill this out, and then I have my friends fill this out. And it's always so interesting because what I've noticed when I've done this exercise or I've had clients do this exercise, there are parts that you know that you have strengths and you own them. And then there are parts that are strengths that others perceive and you don't own them. And when you don't own them, then it's almost like you've been given gifts by you've been given gifts by whoever you think is out there. But you're given gifts and you're not necessarily fully applying them or using them. So that's what I typically do with this. What do you do, and what have you seen when people go through these exercises? What happens for them?
I think what's then really most important is actually the questions
Hmm.
after the exercise.
Okay.
So
How do I generally perceive myself? How do others generally perceive me? How accurate is the way I perceive myself and the way others generally perceive me? For what percentage of characteristics is there a match? And is there a big difference? And what's so exciting about this result and what makes me happy? What surprises me positively? And how is it easy for me to accept how others perceive me now? And how was it when I was a child? How important is it for me to receive feedback from others? What kind of benefits do I receive? Um, and so when I did this, what I found the most interesting is I was in a retreat with a bunch of HR folks, and my personality is very intense. And so I was really like, take my normal personality, divide by 100. Yet when I did this exercise where they were figuring out my strengths, uniformly people said very intense. so, so you can't really hide from who you really are. And I think it was at this juncture that I thought, okay, I can't really, I mean, even when I'm trying very hard, I can't really hide who I am. And why would I want to? And so, for me, what has happened now that I've owned these, looked at the delta, as you say in this, and own them, I'm able to, like, I think part of the reason why my coaching is so powerful is because I ask really intense questions that most people aren't really going to ask. Or even when I have guests, I'll ask them probably the hardest question that they can come up with, and they're like, "Really? You're going to start there?" I'm like, "Yep." Just go right into for the
yes,
jugular.
yeah,
so, so I like these. I like how. So this is one of the ways. In the very last part, you talk about action and taking action after answering some of this kind of introspection in terms of the 7 questions, and kind of asking them. From what I can tell, these are not just things that you do once. These are things that you're constantly asking yourself. What continually attracts my attention? What do you love and have joy? And those are the kinds of questions that you ask. And this 12-step process is something that it's a lifestyle, I would say, not just kind of something that you do once in a lifetime, but then the last part is about taking action. So I want to talk about how you took action because you've done all these wonderful travels. We had found out earlier that you have been to Ganesh Puri, which I've never been to, for your a teacher a lineage that we both have some experience with the Nityananda, which is a non-dual tantric tradition. So tell me a little bit about your travels and how you've lived these 12 steps and 7 questions.
So yeah, let's get back to coming to Hawaii. I had a
Yes.
wonderful experience here in Hawaii, and which was very contrary to my challenging times in Switzerland. So all I wanted, uh, so my plan, so as I make up plans and then plans are being changed
Right.
by force.
Right. So
And so
your mom, just
my
for folks, mom asked you to come to Switzerland, come from Switzerland to Hawaii. You were thinking of like, yeah, I'll go here, but I'm really going to go to Australia to be with my best friend. Then tell us what happened.
yeah, and then so my plan was to be here in Hawaii and just to stay here and to be here basically all the time. And then I made that happen in 2011. At least for I could stay here for a longer time. I started here on the island, and then during that time was where my wife and partner Anjong started to come into my life, and she has been traveling very intensely to most of his focus to go to sacred sites, to holy places for several years before
Mm,
she met me.
mm,
And of course, there are uh, some people who are doing it, and a lot of people are longing for someone they can do this work together with. And so we were both here on the island, living in the literally the same time, but same town, but we never met at that
mm,
time. And even I had her angel reading card, and I always wanted to set up a session, but it never really aligned. And then I got in terms of traveling, where it initially started was traveling here in Hawaii because there are several islands.
mm,
And this was kind of towards the end of my stay. It was around June, and then I asked myself again. I was studying for half a year. I had 1 month left with the visa, and I asked myself the question: what should I do with this remaining additional months I'm gifted with to be here? So I asked the question, and then after you ask the question, and as you're open and receptive, guidance comes in. And guidance has been this time not received through people who showed up. I started to get very strong dreams and visions, and I was sent off on a vision quest, which was to travel over all the Hawaiian Islands
mm,
and to go here in Hawaii to go to as many heiau, these are the Hawaiian temples, the sacred sites, during this journey of 3 weeks to go to as many of these heiaus as possible. And this is what I did. I've been as an average probably 3-4 heiaus a day, and
yeah.
that was my mission. That was my purpose. And on my way, I was leaving here from Kauai, flying to the Big Island of Hawaii. On the way to the airport, this is where Eunjung and I crossed our path for the first time,
Mm,
not knowing yet we're gonna start to travel together. But there, I started to align myself with starting to travel and go to these holy places. And then, long story short, we got back then or together here on Hawaii in 2011, and then I started to feel a little bit. There's a little bit a bigger picture, and this traveling is something I like to go,
mm,
like to do. I like to go to these spiritual places, visiting temples, sacred sites, and yeah, Eunchong, the world traveler she is, I was like, she packed me in one of her suitcases and took me on this journey, and then I was off Hawaii, and then we were mostly traveling basically for 5 years, and one of the reasons was I could stay in the US for 3 months out of the year. She could stay for 3 months out of the year. She could stay in Europe. We we were in love with each other. We are still very much in love with each other. And so we had to look for ways how we could start to do our work together on
Wow.
this planet. And so we were basically based in Europe for 3 months, based in the US, mostly in Hawaii for 3 months, and for the rest we kept traveling. And there was then also very very naturally we went to a place, met people, and where we were guided to start to teach workshops and do ceremonies and
Wow. So you would just
and
go and like, okay, here I'm in Europe. I guess hopefully I'll be able to teach a workshop, and then you're guided and like, hey, look, I'm teaching a workshop here in Europe.
right,
Wow.
yes, and 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 this is how it developed. So we kept teaching. We taught over 150 workshops around the world. But you taught, from a marketing point of view or classic business strategy, this didn't make sense at all because you need to plan the things ahead.
Right.
You need time to plan, and we usually were planning with a 2 to 4 weeks ahead of time, and
Wow.
we are still in a way in the same mode now. We know we're gonna travel again for the next 2 months soon, and we know certain places we go, we start to get guidance where we should go, and then okay, we are at a certain place, there is a certain community or there is a center, there is a place where we can share. So this is how we do. We go to the sacred sites, and then we basically put what we receive as teachings. That's maybe a little bit different. Yes, I have teachers in human form, who are part of a certain lineage,
Mhm.
following certain traditions, but teach it on my journey. These are really messages and energies we receive by performing ceremonies at these holy places, at the sacred sites. We receive certain energies, we receive certain messages, and then we just put it into a teaching, into a workshop, and incorporate it in our work. And
Wow, that's
that's what
fabulous. Wow. Wait, I'm just blown away. So what you do is you basically, and how long have you and your wife been living in this way where you like tune in, you go where you're led, you don't know exactly what you're going to be doing until 4 weeks later? How long have you lived in this style?
since 2012.
2012.
Yes, 2012.
Okay,
That
so okay, I'm just finding all of this so inspirational because my husband and I are soon. We have two boys. The youngest is graduating, and will be gone as of this summer. And we would like to go to various spiritual places. I hadn't even thought of going. I love how the your wife and you have kind of you have a list. I don't know if you have a list, but there's a whole, you like how did you even come up with the number of spiritual places that you could go visit? Was it always intuitive, or did you have a list that was going and you kind of intuited from that list? How did it come about?
it's just certain. It usually starts off with one place where we strongly feel guided to go. So we kind of then, okay, we have to tune in. Is this the right thing to go? And and here also practical advice, and it's about taking action. To lead it a little bit back from our experiences also to someone listening to our conversation. So when it's about making a decision, usually many times we're trying to do it mentally. Okay, what are the pros and cons? If I go for this option or for the other option, what is very, very important is to stay in tune with the body. How, you go in one scenario, and then notice how does your body feel by making this decision. So this is about this gut feeling, or but but it's not just focusing. Gut is kind of in the belly, but also how does it feel to my heart? Does my
Hmm.
heart open up, or does my heart close when I think about this option? Do I go for option A or option B or option C? So it's being in tune with the body, and really being present and looking at this whole experience of life. And I think that's an important portion of my work too. To what we practice in meditation and put it into practice come from the witness, the observer. So both being practical in the world, but always also go internal and start to make decisions from there. You come out and you feel, what is the right thing to do next?
Wow, I
And
love
this
that.
is how we do it with the journeys, but this is basically how it transmits in when we work with groups or when I work individually with people. That's in a way the essence of the work. And yes, of course, I studied life coaching and many techniques, and the same with healing, more than 10 modalities. But really, in essence, it is like a co-creation of being led by spirit, and by still making your decision. This is this walking this fine line, still making decisions from your side. It's a co-creative act, as I mentioned. But when it's about doing your portion, your decisions, be in tune with your body. How does it feel? And also looking at it a little bit from outside of you, from this witnessing, observing perspective, and being that, I would say, the pillar of foundation of my work, which I actually studied when I studied here in Hawaii in 2011, half a year, was a massage therapy, but very much based on the principle of presence-centered awareness. Act from there. And and so yeah, there are tons of, you can read so many books of goal setting, how to set intentions, all these materials. The internet is there. All these resources are available. It can be an overwhelm of information, but it's again leading the attention on what you want to show up, and then out of this space of being present, of being centered, being aware of how you feel inside, and of the signs showing up around you, then out of that space, then take action from there. And then it's not too challenging, because when we look at this goal setting and strategies, it can be sometimes really overwhelming, or it can be scary, because all of us had these experiences of, we want to take a step, okay, this is my goal, I want to work towards that, and then we start to take our first baby steps. But what happens as we start to take the steps? Challenges, obstacles, either external or internal, can show up, and then, okay, we either give up or we stay persistent, but we have some challenging experiences around that of taking action to something which is really dear to our hearts. And so then we found ourselves sometimes not even back at square one, but even more back, square minus two. And then the gap from square minus two to square two, where I want to go, then the gap is even bigger. And so it can become like this disempowering and disencouraging. But this is usually when we try to make decisions on a mental level. So, but if we try to do a decision holistically, so to speak, being in physically, how does it feel? Figuring things out, of course, mentally, we work pro and cons, all of this. And then I think, but ultimately, that's the core of how this journey has been since I have been led here to Hawaii. Then it's the spiritual connection, being led by spirit, being led by the synchronicities, the signs, the people, the animals, nature, all of that, and let that be guidance in your life. So, but it's really, as I mentioned, this fine balance, because we can try to do everything on ourselves, or on the other side, we can try to just be led by spirit. And what I always try to, my message is, it's a co-creation. So we are reaching out to spirit to lead us, but spirit is also reaching out to us, that we are taking action in this human form. That we start to walk closer towards our life purpose, to make a positive difference in this world for ourselves, for others. But so it's in a way a dance.
Yeah, I love it. I love that you've been living in this way. I've been living this way but in one location, and my husband and I have been talking about traveling. So I love the idea of not only traveling, which I love doing, but then also when you're going to these sacred sites, getting downloads. I mean, you're getting information that then feeds your own practice, your own life as you're going to these places. I love that idea. And I think it's, I mean, why wouldn't it be possible for everyone to go and do the same thing? I'm very excited. I'm going to go and tell my husband all about this idea, and maybe we will see you on one of our travels.
Yes.
We've been talking to Yves Nager about his book Hawaiian Rebirth, and completely different way to, I would say, navigate and live life. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, TJ. It was a real pleasure.
It means so much to me that you're listening to the show, and would love your support in any way by giving me comments below, or to subscribe to the show, or share the show with friends. Thank you again for your support. Love and blessings.